You're here because of Dark Wolf Riku, aren't you? I'm Shaylin Cotton, here with TheGamer to show you how to conquer the Shadespire Tower in Lost Ark. So, the Shadespire Tower is the first version of the tower you can run once you've reached endgame. You'll need to be at least item level 302 to enter and item level 540 to clear it. The first time you run the Shadespire, you'll get rewards such as engraving recipes. Afterward, if you run it on a different character, you'll get honing gear materials, which is why so many players recommend running Shadespire on an alt character first. For a full overview of what the tower is, you can find our guide on it in the description below. Mostly, this is just going to be a lightning fast roundup of what challenges you can expect on each floor. If you want a breakdown on the rewards each clear gives, check out the original article by Charles Bougar in the description. This is because, with the exception of a few floors, the Shadespire is a pretty simple challenge to tackle so long as you meet the item level requirement. Let's just get right into it. On the first floor, you just need to destroy the seal stone in 3 minutes. Easy peasy. On floor 2, just eliminate all the enemies in 3 minutes. Floor 3, you need to defeat all the monsters and mini-boss in 3 minutes. On floor 4, you need to eliminate all enemies in 3 minutes. Just treat it like a chaos dungeon, run, and kite them to spam AoE attacks. Floor 5 is your first defeat the boss level. Kill the giant stone spider, and try to avoid breaking the cocoons, which will spawn a smaller, invincible spider. Floor 6 is simple, just defeat the acid bug mother to clear it. On floor 7, you'll need to eliminate all enemies in 3 minutes. Floor 8 is another defeat named monsters floor with a 3-minute timer, but you just need to kill the mini-boss to clear. On floor 9, you just need to eliminate enemies, so group them up and spam. On floor 10, we find our next boss, the Perfect Infected. You have 5 minutes to beat him. Just like the spider, if you break the tubes, you'll unleash smaller versions of the infected. Be mindful of its AoE attacks and try to attack from behind. Floor 11 will have you eliminating enemies in waves. Floor 12 has these lever switches. I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm not sure if the answer is randomized or not. It worked for me after pulling the topmost lever, but others have activated the lower switch successfully. If you pull the wrong one, you could get bombed with an AoE attack or spawn mobs, so expect some trial and error. On floor 13, you'll just need to eliminate all enemies before the timer runs out, but these ones are ranged, so it might take a little longer. Floor 14 is defeat all named monsters, so just focus all your attention on beating the big ghost knight to clear it. By now, you might have gotten used to charging blindly into every floor and swinging. Well, cut that out because floor 15 will kill you for it. This floor has a giant alarm device in its center, which if you strike first will trigger every mob in the room to rain death upon you. Walk in slowly, pop a scarecrow down to draw some attention off of you, and make your way around the edge of the room, taking on the archers one chunk at a time before tackling the alarm device. Floor 16 might also throw you through a loop if you aren't paying attention. It spawns some explosive enemies that you cannot kill. Run away from every big, fiery eyeball guy, and keep them in mind for later. The rest of the enemies are easy peasy. On floor 17, you can take it easy and eliminate all the waves of enemies before the time runs out. Floor 18 is defeat named monsters, so once again, just focus on the fire giant while avoiding his AoE attacks. Floor 19 is another simple eliminate enemies with a mix of ranged and melee mobs to deal with. And floor 20 is your next boss, the Prodigal Stoker. Once you defeat the mobs that spawn from the portal, the big boy appears. You'll need to outrun his fireballs and dodge to avoid the slashes, meteor swarm, 3-hit combo, and his AoE fire blast. With some health potions, he should be short work. Floor 21, we got a simple eliminate enemies room. Floor 22, different mobs, but same deal. Now, on floor 23, we find our first challenging defeat named monsters. Kill these first few succubi ladies, and then a nine-tails-like lady shows up. You'll want some movement skills equipped to deal with their flurry attacks, and maybe a scarecrow if the mobs that spawn prove too tough to deal with. On floor 24, you'll find a seal stone that, once destroyed, spawns a helpful ally. From here, you'll be visited by a bunch of old friends from previous floors. Your ally draws a lot of aggro, so let them do their thing and attack enemies from behind until all the waves are cleared. On floor 25, we have Battle Addict Joe. He might want to rethink his hobby. It's a pretty simple boss. Just avoid the slash attacks, cone AoE attacks, and the spinning swords from the doppelgangers that appear. An oldie but a goodie, floor 26 will just have you defeating waves of ranged enemies. Floor 27 is basically just the variety pack edition. More mobs, some range, some melee. The next boss is on floor 28. Wolf Girl Samoa is pretty easy to clear as well. Just stay on her butt whenever possible. She turns pretty slowly and only attacks forward. This is absolutely the last thing you want to see walking into a tower floor. Don't panic. You remember these enemies from floor 16, remember? You can't kill them, but when they get close, they explode and die, taking you with them. If you're having trouble kiting them, you can use a swiftness robe in addition to your movement skills to avoid them. Hello, next boss, or should I say bosses? Multiple bosses seem scary, but you have 10 minutes to crush these guys. The most annoying thing about these bosses is that if you get caught by one of their AoE attacks, it's easy to get hit by the next. Just take your time, pay close attention to the telegraphs, and don't step in the poison puddles. Floor 31 is just a good old eliminate enemies level. Floor 32 has a mini boss, but it moves pretty slow, so it should be cake. Just attack from behind and dodge attacks. Floor 33 has yet another mini boss plus some ranged mobs that appear along the edges that you cannot kill. Just focus all your fire on the mech to clear this. Oh boy, it's Survival Floor the Remix. This time there's a portal in the middle that slows you down, making you rely on your movement skills to dodge these suckers. If you haven't already equipped another ability that helps you dodge, do so now. Floor 35 is, of course, another boss. It has a simple slash attack, a charge, and some homing tornadoes. This wouldn't be so bad if you weren't also slowed. Take your time, use your movement skill diligently, and avoid what you can. This boss isn't so bad as long as you've brought HP potions along. Floor 36 is defeat named monsters. Just stay on the mini boss's butt and you should be fine. On floor 37 we have two mini bosses, one with a hammer and the other with a flamethrower. If you're having trouble with it, try focusing the flamethrower guy first, or bring a scarecrow to draw their aggro off of you. From there, just finish off the mobs. Floor 38, another named monster level. This Wyvern mini-boss is pretty easy. Just stick to its butt once again and kite the little guys. On floor 39, we have question mark. Don't worry, your friend Lear is back to save the day. The mobs here are cake, but the boss has a nutty amount of health. Just fight off the waves of mobs, avoid the AoE attacks, and let your friend do all the work, helping to break the boss's poise when you can. If you took long enough defeating the mobs at the start, you might run the timer down on this one, so try to do that as quick as possible. On floor 40, you'll be fighting the Bladder Collector. Just avoid his AoEs, ranged attacks, and poison puddles while letting Lear pull all the aggro. It's the final countdown. Floor 41 is just a mini-boss, but he has a bunch of invincible little guys that join him that make it a real pain. Stay on his butt and try to avoid the mobs as much as possible. Floor 42 is the boss Pokken. He's a slow guy, so mainly you just want to dodge his charge attacks at all costs to avoid getting pinned into a corner like this. Attack from behind when you can. The named monster on floor 43 is quicker and tougher than other levels, but by now you should honestly be a pro. It's Survive Electric Boogaloo. This version of the Survive floor has you not only dodging the exploding guys, but avoiding these little crab-eyed dudes that spawn and boop you if you get too close. Just circle this room while avoiding the Leshar left eyes. When the eyes spawn in a line down the center of the room, be sure to save your space key, or movement ability, to cross safely to the other side to avoid the massive explosion that spawns. The only thing worse than fighting an extremely powerful boss is fighting it blind with a 5-minute timer. Dark Wolf Riku sucks. For this fight, I strongly suggest you bring a Scarecrow, Awakening Potion, and Lotera's Horn. You might honestly want some purple HP potions if you're struggling, since those have more charges in the tower. Firstly, kill the teeny wolves ASAP. Time is ticking, baby. He has your typical melee attack, typical AoE attack, and typical charge attack. that's not the problem. Your first challenge to overcome with Riku is his Shadow Strike. This makes him disappear for a few seconds, only to reappear and stab you in the back, stunning you. It's honestly just kinda hard to avoid. With time, you get a feel for how long he stays gone for, and you can spam movement abilities until the attack is over. Then, Riku will cloak himself, making him invisible. You can attack him while he's like this, and you kinda gotta because, you know, only 5 minutes. You just won't know where exactly he's facing or what he's doing. Neat. Your next problem is when Riku literally makes you blind. Your Panacea potion is useless here, only removing the blindness effect for a second. The best way to overcome this is to place your Scarecrow, and when you find him, spam him with your most powerful attacks. Not to mention, Riku can go invisible while you are blinded. This is where I used Lezerd's horn to both flesh him out and get his aggro off of me to deal some additional damage. He'll also do that fun Shadow Strike attack, which is hard to tell what he's doing because, again, you can't see him. Best indicator is if you see his health bar pop up in the darkness just to the side of you, he's gonna stab you. This boss was a huge pain. I honestly had to use my awakening skill on him, and I was over the item level requirement, and I still ran the timer down to the end. If you are losing your mind, my only advice to you is to grind item level until you're overpowered. Next boss on 46 is much simpler in comparison. The most annoying thing about him is all the mobs that swarm you. Avoid the AoE attacks and try to stick behind him. If you're taking too much damage, try placing a Scarecrow for the mobs or using a Swiftness robe to avoid his charge attacks. Okay, this guy also sucks. Mostly just because there is so much going on. You've got AoEs, toxic projectiles, clones of the OG boss. Oh yeah, and you're blind again. I was able to beat him mostly by sticking to his butt as much as I could, while trying to avoid the worms if possible, and especially those stunning AoE attacks that can end up chain CCing you. I ended up using my awakening skill on him as well, just to knock his HP down faster. When I first attempted floor 48, I assumed the game was glitched. But no, this floor silences all of your abilities, making it so you can only use grenades and bombs. The trick is that you can only equip one kind of grenade at a time. Pick something with a lot of damage like the flash grenade. I also equipped the destruction bomb since it is technically a bomb and not a grenade. You have one mini boss in the middle and a bunch of laser eyeballs around the edge to avoid. Slam the mini boss with your grenade and bomb and then go on the move while more mobs appear. You can use the stealth robe to go invis, giving yourself more time while your items cool down. Run circles for your life and toss your grenade and bomb at the mini boss whenever you get a moment. It's only fitting that floor 49 is like a TV recap of the whole tower. You'll get a bunch of the same mobs you fought on earlier floors before the big boy, the organ extractor, appears. His moveset is similar to the bladder collector from floor 40, but the longer the fight takes, the more infected begin to spawn. Your best bet is to carry the Scarecrow and Lezerd's horn into this fight to distract the tiny guys while you focus on the main attraction. Again, if you're having trouble getting his health down, don't be afraid to use your awakening skill. Oh boy. Okay, this guy. Corrupting Light Lezerd. If you're a Soulsborne player, this fight probably won't be so bad. But if you, like me, started playing Lost Ark for the cute anime girls, just hang on tight. Your best chance at beating the tower's final boss is simply to learn his attack patterns. He stays in the middle of the floor the whole time. His first phase, you'll see his attacks telegraphed on the floor. There's 2 cycles. The first is a series of cone attacks. The first and second, he'll aim in your direction, and the third, he stays rooted and fires off cones to his side. You can attack him while he's doing the side cones, but if you're too close to him, you might take some damage. The other cycle is a series of in and out circles. Movement abilities are absolutely key here. Stick on his butt. There's really only one attack he has that can reach you from behind. Plus, if you're behind him, you can tell when he's turning to face you with a cone attack. Also, don't get greedy. He typically takes breaks between these cycles, but sometimes he switches quicker than you'd expect. Then he does this fun little thing. When you see him summoning a little void around his face, just start running. If this beam hits you, it's a one-shot. This move marks the start of his second phase, which is basically just him getting funky with the same moves. He'll alternate more quickly between the swiveling cone attack and the in-circle attack. Just stay on the periphery of the in-circle and use movement abilities to avoid the cone, taking advantage of his downtime to get in a few swings. The Swiftness robe can help out with this portion if you're struggling. In the third phase, he makes the floor dark, covering up his movement telegraphs. Honestly, the only way to get through this is to have studied his animations while the floor was exposed. This phase only alternates between the in and the out circle attacks. When he's about to summon an out circle, he'll move his hands in and then up, forming a little triangle. This means that by him is safe. When he's about to summon an in circle, he'll move his arms down and then up, which means it's time to move to the outer part of the room. Survive this section doing damage while you can, and he'll blind you and start firing off a bunch of those void beams. Just run around him in a circle and don't stop. Even when the blindness lifts, he'll fire off one more. I used my awakening ability right before this phase kicked off to finish him off quickly, because next he has a chance of blinding you and doing his AoE attacks. I also used the flame grenade to do some additional ticking damage. And that's it. That's the Shadespire Tower. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go curl up into a ball and cry. For more tips and guides on Lost Ark, be sure to check out TheGamer.com.